Welcome to the podcast. We Do Recover with Jared Miller, your host.
And I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host.
This is a podcast about recovery from addiction.
We want to talk about what successful recovery can look like.
Brought to you by Diamond Detox, Wasatch Crest, Team Recovery, Rise Up Subs, and the Hilton Garden Inn.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 165. 165 is going to go into the books as a conversation with Tyson Dixon.
Dude, is that like a Little John? It sounds like a Little John theme song music.
Oh, either that or it's like some bad 70s porno music.
Okay, the only person who says bad 70s porn is you. Nobody else has ever mentioned that. I don't know what's in your like 1998 taxes folder on your Windows 98 machine, but
you can see it though, right?
If you can imagine. Yeah. I mean, it hit a little harder than that though. You know what I mean? Some East Side boys.
Yeah, man. That's the intro. It's been that intro for 5 years. So it's kind of like
he tried to change it. I'm like, don't change it. People know it.
5 years this jam's been going
Yeah,
on?
we've been doing this for 5 years, bro.
That's rad.
Crazy, right?
That's cool.
We talked about that 2 episodes ago. This thing was birthed in the apocalyptic.
Birthed in the bowels of COVID.
They called it COVID-19. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Uh-huh.
It's an apocalyptic time, but dude, welcome to the podcast. I love that you just come on and, just start talking trash about the music right off the bat, dude. It's like, welcome.
Dude, yeah.
Here we go. Here we go. So we got Tyson in house. Today he's going to share his story of recovery. This guy's got an incredible story. Tyson Dixon is also the owner, CEO of Renaissance Ranch. Am I getting your credentials right?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure, I'm kind of that guy too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna dive into that. Before we get to all that, though, we want to show our sponsors some love. I got it up on the board here right behind me. Diamond Detox. You've met Jordan Birmingham, right?
He's the man, yeah.
We went golfing with him up there at Black Desert.
Yeah.
The Jays versus the T's.
He's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
I really like Diamond Detox just because they have private, like I've gone and toured the facility. I know everybody on staff. Everybody's super friendly. His whole theme is, and I've kind of copied it from him, is people helping people. Yeah. Like, I love that because it totally resonates with me. The facilities, like, you wouldn't know it was there if you didn't know it was there, which is cool, right? It's like in a secluded place. Private rooms for every person. That's way different than a lot of detoxes that I know of, right, where they bunk you up in 2 or 3s.
Yeah.
Everybody has a private room, their own TV. They got a chef that they have there. It's just kind of bougie, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and, I mean, they take most payers, don't they?
Yeah, a ton.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head, but
that's a pretty unique setup then for a private detox that takes most insurances and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to see it.
So if you're listening to this podcast and you know somebody that could benefit from a medical detox, check out our guys at Diamond Detox. Their number is going to be 385-988-5332. Or check out the website at diamonddetox.com. We appreciate them sponsoring this podcast. Boom. Next up, I don't know if you've heard of this outfit called Team Recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with these guys at Team Recovery?
Yep, for sure.
Well, we're gonna have Preston on here soon, right? The guy that's running Team Recovery. But so Team Recovery, it's basically a custom app, right? And it's for all providers. It doesn't have to be substance abuse. Yep. They can do one for any medical provider.
Yep. What
are some of the benefits of having a Team Recovery app built?
Yeah. So as a facility owner, I mean, over the years, there's been a lot of companies. Hey, we have this app, blah, blah, blah. I went to press during COVID and was like, hey, can we build an app that increases engagement of our clients, that adds additional support, that is fun, that has like a sobriety tracker, that also is like gamification. So when they check in on their mental health status, our clinicians can get that info, but then also they get rewarded for their involvement and gain points to be able to translate to swag. Because we have a bunch of cool ranch swag, hoodies and
shirts,
hats
hoodies,
and shirts and different stuff. And, the guys love it, but it's costly we don't want to give it away. And so this way they can kind of earn it and work for it. But then also we get a lot of clinical and outcomes information on the back end.
So positive reinforcement with the clients.
Yep.
Right? Hey, if you get on every week and you do your mental health check-ins and you do your assessments, the stuff that they need to do anyways, right? But it's just creating some type of positive reward for them. Yeah. Like, what's in it for me? You know how that attitude, right? Like, what's in it for you is points towards a hat or a T-shirt or simple stuff. But at the same time, a lot of that stuff's...
Well, and the hope with it is the thing the ranch has always been powerful with is our alumni community. And so it's like, how can we make our alumni community better and bigger and more interactive? And so that's really where the app comes in too, is to support the alumni community. And, you know, we want other facilities to experience the same thing that we do, because there's so much beauty in long-term recovery and having that community of people to share it with and to support you with. And
I think that's one of the biggest pieces missing from treatment providers, in my opinion, based on the experience that I've had over the years. Is
for sure, it's
tracking
hard.
Outcomes and alumni. Like, when people go through the program, that's one thing. It's easy to stay, you know what I mean, in touch with them while they're enrolled in the program. But what happens to them afterwards? Because really, that's a good measure of success, is how many of your people long term are staying in sobriety or staying clean.
For sure.
So it's cool that the app kind of tracks that. It helps, you know, keep people involved, feel like they're still involved. Yep. I also love that you mentioned the clinical piece. I was on here, I think, last week talking with Travis Whitaker, and I was talking about, I was out golfing, and I think it was Keith who we golfed with today. We were talking about assessments and different stuff, and I don't want to bore people, but just the stuff that is very...
not fun.
Very important for a clinical... No, for sure. It's not always fun.
It's the work side of it.
But it's very important for a clinical person to know, right?
Crucial, yep.
And we were talking about, you know, having the clients fill out papers, and he's like, oh, no, we just use the app.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it's 2025. It sounds like you could just use an app these days, right?
Right. There's an app for that.
Yeah.
That's the thing, too, is there's an app. Like, there's so much when it comes to the credentialing side of it, because to be a provider... for the most part, you have to have a national accreditation, and the compliance with that is a lot. And so it has a whole compliance factor in there. I mean, it's go on and on about it. There's too much, you know.
Yeah, I like it. I love it. So if you are interested in getting an app for your agency, reach out to them. You can reach them at 866-824-2281, or go to their website. That's going to be teamrecovery.io. We appreciate them sponsoring this podcast. All right, my friend. So this is a podcast about recovery from addiction. I appreciate you being willing to come on. Since you're a guest on here, it kind of leads to, like, you've got a story of recovery.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start, man? Where do you want to go?
Yeah. I'll tell you my story after you tell me yours.
There's plenty of my story out there.
No, it would be good to hear your story too one day, bro. And it's been good getting to know you.
I can tell you my story. You want me to tell you my story? College athlete.
Yeah.
Had some injuries. Went through some tragedies. Dad passed away. Brother passed away. Right. Started abusing the pain meds that I was being prescribed because of the shoulder surgery and the ankle surgery. I'm the typical cliche college opiate.
Oh, got you.
That's my story, man.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wasn't strong enough, went to the hard stuff, went to rehab.
Yeah, actually got to a point in life where I was like, my pain management doctor was like, dude, your surgeries are years old. Like, you shouldn't have to be on this stuff anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, right. So he kind of like 86'd me. He's like, get out of here. You're fine. Right. Yeah. Well, what do you do when you're in active withdrawal, right? I was withdrawing, went to work, and a guy that I worked with was like, dude, I got some black. Yeah. And I'm like, what? I've never heard of that. Like, because I'm used to the Percocets and the Oxycontins and the hydro, all the medical, pharmaceutical stuff. And he's like, heroin. Yeah. And I was like, bro, why are you even talking to me, right? Like, that's so dirty. Like, I thought I was so above that. Yeah. And he literally said, well, have fun with the withdrawals. 3 hours later, I was like, dude, I don't care. Whatever you got.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started sweating and jerking and, you know what I mean? Like throwing up, and I'll stop there because it can get even more ugly.
Yeah. For sure.
I didn't want to say it, but pooping my pants, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's all stuff that happens when you go through withdrawals from opiates.
It's not fun.
No.
The opposite of fun. The party's over.
The party. I don't know that it was ever a party, but
Party
yeah.
pooper?
Got him.
This is a podcast about Tyson Dixon, though.
Oh, so
It's a party.
get the disco ball going, man.
Donovan.
So how much time do we have? Because 15
You got
minutes.
15 minutes and then a break and then 25 minutes.
Got you. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's an honor to be able to put in be in a place where to provide experience, strength, and hope, like what was provided for me. Because when I was in active addiction in my disease, I didn't believe that change was a thing. I didn't believe it was possible. I felt I was essentially gonna die in that state.
For sure. Like you couldn't even believe that there was something different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because it had been my life, so long, for so many years, and the progressive nature of it, and I had gone years having something in my system every single day, and so to consider, I knew that I was, so I'm fast forwarding to my rock bottom, right, in Salt Lake County Jail, 120-pound drug addict. Where 9 months before that, I was a 190-pound running back, linebacker in high school.
Yeah.
So I, for same thing, got into pills after high school, tried heroin, and was drinking and smoking weed every day. But as soon as I started tried that, I quit every other substance, and I just latched onto that one, and it was a downhill, a steep decline of cognitive functioning, emotional balance, physical health, and more, my brain just wanted more and more to use to get back to a place of normalcy, as we know.
Right. Yeah. You were just trying to get back to baseline.
Yeah.
You said 9 months, though. You said 9 months before that. So your tailspin was 9 months long?
Yeah. Yeah, I tracked it. Yeah. I mean, it was, that's how quick it picked up, and I just went full board with it. I remember I was doing sales at the time, and when I first started taking it, it enhanced my ability. Like, it enhanced,
You were feeling good. You had a ton of dopamine flowing through your brain and your body.
I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to just always do this.
I'm happier. I'm funnier. I'm better at my job.
The first few weeks was making more money. I'm like, everything's great.
That's the lie. That's
and
the
then
hook,
the
bro.
brain starts to adapt. And what I, going, fast forwarding, getting a degree in psychology and counseling and studying addiction, I had no idea what was going on in my brain. I've learned now, but there was no reserve nothing in the tank as far as no dopamine, endorphins, serotonin, because when you're putting that in from outside sources, your brain stops producing. The brain goes, the factory that produces all the feel-good chemicals goes, hey, we need to shut down. We're getting this from outside sources.
Right.
So we're good.
We have the synthetic. We don't need to make the...
And that's when the withdrawals come in, is there's, you quit, you get put in jail or you have to quit, and there's nothing in the brain that's ready to regulate your pain sensors like normal and regulate your baseline. And
because the factory shut down.
Factory's been shut down.
That's a really good visual. Right?
Yeah.
The factory that typically in a healthy brain, an individual that's not abusing substances, it's producing it. It's up and running.
Yep.
Right. I can see the smokestacks of the factory rocking and rolling.
Right.
And then when it's been outsourced basically to whatever you're putting in synthetically, it shuts down.
Down. There's nothing in storage.
Yeah, that's a good.
Nothing left over. And so so addicts and alcoholics do insane things despite horrific consequences. And it's not meant to absolve the behavior of the addict and alcoholic, as we've come to understand. It's meant to explain the behavior and the insanity.
Right, like we're not letting them off the hook, right? But it's also important to understand why.
Yeah. That we're dealing with a genuine neurological brain disease.
Yeah.
That it doesn't start that way. It's fun and games and limited to no consequences. But then over time, there becomes a point where the scale tips. And once that brain experiences that scale tipping, that diseased standpoint, it will always return back to that diseased standpoint, which is which was crazy for me to learn in treatment and understanding the disease model and concept and understanding the 12 steps on how to get out and stay out. So yeah, I grew up in a good family, awesome parents, good, upper middle class, Draper, Utah.
Yeah.
And very blessed. Always had a disposition of my brother and I both of just we wanted to be rebellious, don't do that. We were going to do it. My parents were hyper strict, and so they were very, very strict, very and so.
Is it possible that you were just teenage boys?
Yeah, for sure. And my parents, they didn't know how to deal with us. And and we were, that's when the dishonesty came in, everything like that. I mean, get in trouble all the time. And so they would try to punish us with, grounding us and things like that. And so I was like, well, you're going to ground me, I'll just sneak out, at when everyone's to bed and did that all the time. And, 16, 17, they thought they had an alarm system. I learned how to hack it, and so was gone. And, just as the disease just developed. I mean, I got a fake ID when I was 17, and so I could go and buy all the beer and stuff that we could. And, I fully was alcoholic, drinking alcoholically, at 17 years old.
Got you.
At night and just getting wasted. And, I remember just being stupid, just driving home, 15 beers in, like, oh, it's 5 a.m, no one's on the road anyways. But barely being able to pull it off, and just like, and so picking up charges, different, alcohol possession charges along the way. Went to juvenile detention twice when I was 17, turned 18, just to have a record, more possession charges, on probation. You need to go to rehab. No, I don't have a problem. Going through all that. My parents trying to drag us to meetings. I remember, them like, hey, you can live here if you go to meetings, And so we would fake going to meetings, and show up and just say that we went and didn't want it, And luckily, it came to a head, and Preston went to my parents and said, okay, jig's up. We're sick. Like we've been using heroin. Because my parents were like, what's going on? You're 130 pounds, Tyson. Like,
yeah, how old are you at this state?
18.
Okay.
Yeah, 19.
Okay, so
19.
Basically from getting a fake ID at 17, and there's something psychological about that too, right? Because like you're the man, like amongst like your peers and stuff, like you're the guy, because you can go and get the beer, right? And so it kind of plays into psychologically is like your identity, because all of a sudden now you're like the cool guy on campus, and you got the hookup, and you know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
It's funny how our brains do that. It's interesting.
Well, and the brain isn't fully developed. Your prefrontal cortex, that's where you make your decisions from, your sense of reasoning and weighing right and wrong and weighing out consequence. So that part of the brain is super freaking important, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? 17-year-old kids, that's like 30% developed. Right. That's why it's like you look at teenagers like, you're a freaking idiot, dude. What are you doing? It's because their brains are partially developed. It's not, the prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed in males till they're about 27 years old.
Well, the scarier thing is introduce substances, and that shuts down the
growth. Yeah, exactly. That's why I say, like, when people get sober, they revert
30% to zero.
Yeah. Well, you revert back, like it puts pause on your emotional development portion of your brain. So like you meet people that are 45 years sober, but they act like they're 13.
Yeah.
They're 45 years old, act like they're 13.
13 because they started abusing heavy at 13 and never got help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it pushed the pause on that development. So
at 19, the jig's up. You and Preston.
Yeah.
Presto. I'm going to call him Presto.
Yeah.
Every time during his episode. Go to mom and dad and say, hey, we need help.
Press
We're
went to
using
mom and
heroin.
dad. He, in my mind, I wanted to keep running and gunning. I wasn't quite ready.
Got you.
And he'd been going a little longer than me.
Life hadn't kicked your ass enough yet, huh?
No. And so he went to treatment, a really good place. I went out and just hit it hard, and was using more than I ever had before, and just at the height of my using, right? And I remember I owed a bunch of people money. I was broke, couch surfing. I was having to steal every day just because I couldn't function. I couldn't actually
So did mom and
work.
dad basically say you're out?
Yeah, was out at that point.
Got ya.
Had been out for a few months now. Because they're like, well, if you're not going to do recovery, you can't live here. And I'm like, well,
Right.
screw you. I'll go away, I got friends. I got resources. And I'm just like, who's this freeloader on the couch, Like, dude, just asking for money, And just, a stupid kid.
Yeah.
But, but previously had, a lot of charm, talent in school. Like, I got B's. I wasn't stupid. I didn't try.
Yeah.
And I got B. So, I thought I was smart. I thought I was capable, but once the brain started shutting down, that wasn't the case. So Press goes to rehab. I hit it hard. I find myself face down in a parking lot, getting held down by pedestrians because I was stealing. Right, the store, they're like, was chased by the employees, tackled, and held down, trying to get away. And they're like, I'm getting held down by the pedestrians, and I'm just like, whoa, who am I? What have I become?
Yeah.
How you feel like I felt like an animal that had been that had rabies or something, you know what I mean? Just like a degenerate human, like getting held. Like,
it's funny how sometimes socially we need those moments to really like put us in check and be like, dang, how did I get here?
Yeah.
I have a very similar moment. It was, I walked into a place in the mall, and part of my hustles, I would steal from the Gateway Mall when I was homeless. And I walked in and they knew I'd stole from there before. And so I'm sure they were watching me, and I snagged a hat and walked right out the door. And next thing I know, people are chasing me on foot. I outrun them. I got this freaking mall cop on a bike who's just following me, and he's on the phone with the police. And I'm like throwing rocks at him, and I'm not going to outrun him. He's on a bike.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And eventually I just stop, and he's like, the cops are on their way. And I'm like, okay, I can't breathe, so I'm just going to sit here. And I hand him the hat back. And I had that moment, like, really, dude?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah, man. And it's sad, and it's literally my rock bottom, right? Well, it got a little worse. I went to jail. I was on drugs at the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm in jail, and I wake up, and, that withdrawal starts to set in. And, jail was a horrific, probably traumatic experience for me because I was using so much. I didn't sleep, actually, like 5-minute sleep for 21 days.
Yeah.
So I was around the clock because your brain produces natural opium to put you to sleep, right? When you put it, your opium is the chemical derivative from heroin. And so like there was no opium in the storage to put me to sleep. So I'm awake I remember just sitting, looking at the clock, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., like, day after day. So I was only in jail for a month. It was $200 for me to get bailed out of jail. No one would do it. That's how many bridges I had burned. And but I remember just being in jail wanting to die. I never understood how people could take their own life, but I wanted more than anything to take my life. I did not want to live.
Yeah.
I didn't, because of that place of hopelessness where my disease had gotten me.
That you're a $200 bond, nobody's bailing you out, and basically you can't even sleep, right? And psychologically, that's got to play a big factor into it. We're going to break, but we're going to come back from break and dive right back into it, man. So we'll be back from this break right after a little message from our sponsors.
Okay.
You are listening to We Do Recover with Jared Miller and co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. We'll be right back after this short break with more of We Do Recover with Jared Miller. Brought to you by Diamond Detox, Wasatch Crest, Team Recovery, Rise Up Subs, and the Hilton Garden Inn.
The team at Diamond Detox is compassionate, helpful, and trained to support every step of the healing journey. Your loved one's path to a healthier, happier life starts with a free and easy 20 to 30-minute assessment over the phone or a few questions submitted online on the Diamond Detox website. Assessments and admissions occur 7 days a week, depending on availability. To begin the path to recovery, visit diamonddetox.com or call 385-988-5332.
Hi, my name is Jim Huffman. I'm the founder and CEO of Wasatch Crest Treatment Services. We're located in Heber City, Utah, amongst the beautiful Wasatch Mountains. We offer a full continuum of care, and what that means is that, you know, we can support our clients and their families from day one all the way through their entire recovery journey. Our goal here at Wasatch Crest is for this to be your last time in treatment and the beginning of a life in recovery that will bring you joy and fulfillment and a sense of healing to you and your family and to those who love you.
To learn more about Wasatch Crest, call me, Jared, directly at 385-644-1500 and check out the website at wasatchcresttreatment.com.
So we've made developing an app very affordable, and we do it really quick.
We are the only mobile app development company in the behavioral health space and the only constant throughout a client's entire life cycle, from pre-admissions to 10 years sober.
Now with new technology, we can develop a high-quality app in a fraction of the time. Now that we've done this with hundreds of partners all across the country, we can get this done within 6 weeks. An hour of your time is all it requires per week over that time, and just like that, your app's done. Developed on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store.
On the front end, we know we can help increase conversions. While the patient's with you, we work on retention and engagement, and moving on into post-treatment, we collect a lot of readmissions and referrals.
Get your agency an app. Give them a call at 866-824-2281 or visit their website at teamrecovery.io.
We welcome you back to We Do Recover with Jared Miller, co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. Brought to you by Diamond Detox, Wasatch Crest, Team Recovery, Rise Up Subs, and the Hilton Garden Inn. And now with part 2 of our podcast, Jared Miller and Dr. Terry Sellers.
Welcome back, everybody, and thanks for sticking with us through that little sponsorship break. Speaking of sponsorships, one of the facilities you heard from was Wasatch Crest Treatment Services. We really appreciate them sponsoring this podcast. Have you been up and toured Wasatch Crest?
Dude, I have not. I've heard awesome things about it. I met Jim a few years ago, and just always had a great spirit about him. Seems like a good man. Darcy's someone that I admire and respect, and I know she's right under him there. And to have the full continuum of care, and I mean, not a lot of places really have that, and it's in such a beautiful area. Like, it seems like it would be cool to see it, but I've just heard good things.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's like I say to people when they're like, "Oh, what's it like?" And I'm like, "You're gonna feel like you're going to celebrity rehab." Like, it's literally in Heber, right? And it's gorgeous. I mean, right next to the Wasatch property, they call it Wasatch. That's the men's residential, right? There's two separate. They do gender specific treatment, right? So guys are with guys, girls are with girls. Anyways, at Wasatch on the main campus, there's like tennis courts and pickleball courts and basketball courts and a gym underneath the facility, and it's just beautiful. Sweet. Super beautiful. Yeah. And then the women's, again, we have the women's is in Park City, and that's a super nice location. It's the newest of all of them, so it's the most modern. It's just, man, it's amazing. They have an entire room dedicated just to art therapy for the ladies. Yeah. Super cool. You can just tell it's got like a good healing vibe, you know?
That's important to have a good environment. Because we get to the place where we don't love and respect ourselves, you know, and so to have people do that for us in a nice place, that definitely gives a leg up for sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you can speak to this, you know, being the owner of Renaissance Ranch. Like, they have over 50 professionals working there that almost every single one of them are in recovery themselves, right? So like when you have staff, and I know Renaissance Ranch is the same way, when you have staff that's very empathetic to when people are having their freak out moments, when people are having their, you know what I mean, throwing their fits or whatever, all the stuff that you see in residential, that to a family member or to somebody who doesn't always know what this is, could be very scary and very intimidating. Yep. To us, we call it Tuesday, right? Yeah. Like, so to have 50 professionals on staff, it's just, I'm
crucial.
Super happy we got Wasatch Crest. If you're interested in treatment with Wasatch Crest, give us a call, 385-644-1500. That literally rings to my cell phone, right? So if you call that number, for better or worse, you'll get me, and I'd love to chat with you. Again, that's 385-644-1500. You can also check out their website to see all the stuff we're talking about at wasatchcresttreatment.com. We appreciate them sponsoring this podcast. We also have Rise Up Supplements. Rise Up Supplements, I don't know if you know this, and we're going to talk about this for a sec, because you mentioned, like, the last time we did the sponsorship, mentioned that you're like, oh, I don't even notice that stuff. I'm going to challenge you to take 3 of my mind shift and see if you notice anything. Rise Up Supplements is a nootropic supplement line that me and my wife came up with. So you're familiar with like the neural pathways of the brain. Uh-huh. Mind shift is going to speed up those neural pathways for people that are like, I don't even want to get out of bed, right? They're struggling with kind of the depression, lack of motivation, lack of focus and drive. That red formula, the recommendation is 1 to 3. Mm-hmm. Start with 1, see how you feel. Don't take more than 3, because again, I would be hard pressed if you took 3 of them and you didn't notice anything. We might have to send you off for human testing.
Yeah. Dude, yeah. I mean, it's crazy what they're doing with nootropic stuff. And if you've got some genuine ingredients, then that's awesome.
Yeah. And then the blues, like, think of red for fire, red gas pedal, get you going, get you fired up, get you focused. The blue is like ice. It cools you off, chills you out, right? Yeah. It's got some lines made in there, some ashwagandha, rhodiola. It's got some things that are really going to help slow down those neurotransmitters, so you're not talking a million miles an hour like I am right now, and you're just not overly anxious.
Yeah.
Have you ever met that person?
Help you recharge.
I'm just that person. Like, I'm just always like a freaking Energizer bunny. And sometimes it's nice to take a couple of those mindful moods and just be like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So if you guys are interested, check out Rise Up Supplements on their website. That's riseupsups.com, RISEUPS.com. Appreciate
perfect thing for drug addicts, it sounds like, because, you know, if it's
I
no,
can't
seriously,
tell if you're being genuine or if you're like condescending.
No, a little bit of both, but
okay, let's get it.
No,
where'd your brain go?
No, I'm just right, because like when drugs and alcohol, anything that's intoxicating for us is a no-go, right?
Yeah.
But everything else, it's a full send.
Yeah.
Right. Like if it's helpful, if it's supportive, it's not going to intoxicate you, right? If it's going to be helpful for you to, send it.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny is how this whole thing even came up. I'll give you the quick version. I want to get back to your story. Is I was working as a counselor, and I had a lot of clients. You know how we are. Like, we'll shoot up, heroin with gutter water, but we don't want to put a pharmaceutical drug in our body, right? We don't want to. I was getting that with a lot of clients. Like, no, I just want to do all holistic. I don't want any medication, anything like that. And so I saw him struggle, and I'm like, if you just took a little bit of L-theanine, it would really help with your brain fog, right? If you just took some Nupeptin, it would really help with like your mood and your motivation, right? And so I would literally be on sticky notes, kind of prescribing like herbal formulas for people. And then I realized that one of them said to me, they're like, you realize this is like $90 to order all 3 of these or 4 of these. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't think about that. And so then I went home that night and I was like, babe, we got to just come up with some formulas.
Yeah.
Like I have all the knowledge, right? Like we just got to go somewhere and get it made. And so that's kind of where it was birthed out of.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I think a lot of people that are in that realm that don't want to do SSRIs and don't want to do that type of stuff, there's more than one way to mess with the neurotransmitters of the brain.
Especially after your brain's been in that disease state and it needs some supplementation that's not, like I said, intoxicating or that's going to perpetuate the disease. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I appreciate you letting me geek out about the supplement
That's
line
cool,
there for
man.
a sec. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering what the skinny was on that. So that's cool.
Yeah. And then for our listeners, if you're ever traveling through southern Utah, check out the Hilton Garden Inn, St. George, Utah. They have amazing amenities. They're always really cool about when we have guests that are from out of town, they hook us up with a hotel room. We love the Hilton Garden Inn for their sponsorship and all they do. So let's get back to it.
Yeah.
To kind of recap, you're like 19, been running and gunning, using heroin. Mom and dad are like, go to treatment or get out. You're like, cool, I'll get out. I know better than you, right? Because we're 19. When we're 19, we feel like we're invincible. Your rock bottom is you're being held down by some...
In a parking lot, literally rock bottom.
Literally by some... Were they store employees or just patrons that were attending?
Both.
Okay.
It was.
I just envisioned like 15 people just dogpiling you.
Oh my gosh, bro, it's so funny. I mean, because it's funny now. It wasn't funny then, because then at the time, I was just doing anything to get away. So I'm biting, punching, clawing, and so it's like there's people there seeing it like he's a thief, like hold him, I hit a store worker, right? And so I'm getting violent.
Right.
That got me right to maximum security.
Did you have drugs on you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I had paraphernalia.
Okay. I just wondered if in the brain you were like, oh, I don't want to get caught with X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, I didn't want to get caught and go to jail, so I would have to go through withdrawals.
Got you.
That was the fear. That was the run. That was the you're driven through that.
So you go to max because you've been labeled as a violent person
in
because
max,
of the incident.
23-hour lockdown.
And
I'm going through acute withdrawal.
In there for 30 days, you didn't sleep for 21 of them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Take us to where does it go from there, man?
Yeah, I mean, I got a letter in there from my brother who was in treatment, and we were running and gunning together before that. And there's a funny story. So I got a letter from him, and he's like, "Hey, I just remember feeling like, who is this person? Like, he had a desire to stay clean and sober. He's like, dude, everything we've learned about like God and our religion was not real. He's like, I'm coming to identify a God that in a relationship with God, and it's doing this and this and this for me, and it's awesome. I have all this hope." And I remember like, whoa, who's this guy, right? And that's the first time I had like a glimmer of hope, right, of someone carrying the message. And then I got out of jail, and I got out of jail, and I remember going to a drug dealer's house, but I wasn't going to use because it was one of the only places I was allowed. And this was back when there was phone books. So because I'm like, all right, I looked up the rehab my brother was at.
Okay.
And lo and behold, my friend came in, crackhead Brett, we'll call him. He came in. He's like, "Hey, dude, I have a car and I have a place we can stay." I was like, my disease was like, bing, perfect. We'll just do that. And so, but first we got to go rescue my brother from rehab. And so I go in this Mission Impossible, like I go in the phone book.
Oh,
I mean, this was 2000.
So you didn't pull out the phone book to like enroll yourself. You were going to break your brother out.
Exactly.
Okay.
I had to find out where we had to go. And so I went there. I had crackhead Brett drive me, and I get out, and my plan was like, "Hey, bro, we have a car, we have a place to stay. Let's keep running and gunning, right?" Yeah. And show up there, ding dong, and They saw this crazy, and they called the cops on me.
Good for them.
And so then I was off, and anyways, a little bit later, I wound up back at that same rehab that that Press was at, and at this point, I'm compelled to be there. I have to be there. Didn't want to be in treatment at all, like at all.
Heavily externally motivated.
I had to, because it was that or jail time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I guess I'll just do this. So I was doing it begrudgingly and not really wanting to be there.
We call that a nudge from the judge.
Yeah. And man, I'm so grateful for that, because that program opened my eyes to recovery, and it did so much for me. It was such a massive part of my journey. And you know, being able to be there, and my brother's in aftercare, and I'm like, okay. And you know, now working as a substance abuse counselor, like we're aware of the stages of change.
Yep.
And I was in pre-contemplation. You know, I was maybe thinking about changing. And
sounds like when you first went, you were in pre-contemplation.
Well, I was
like you were like, I don't have a problem. Everybody else has a problem.
Before that, I was in straight denial, right? And a good treatment facility will take you, guide you, will understand, the treatment team will be able to understand where this person is at in the stages of change, meet them there, support them there, understand them there, and then help them move forward, help them see where that's not going to serve them, and skillfully help move them forward. And that's what these guys did for me. I'm in treatment, and I'm just getting lit up in group, you know, and just this entitled 19-year-old kid, and they were just picking, you know, I grew so much through that, but I was just fighting it. The first 2 weeks, I remember I was just heels in, fighting it. I remember saying to my brother right before I checked, the day I checked, I was like, bro, tell me everything I got to do to get all these rehab people off my back so we can just go back to doing what we do. Tell me what to say, dude, to schmooze it over.
Yeah.
And by that time, he was already converted to recovery, you know, and he just smiled. I'll never forget. He just smiled at me, and he's like, just surrender, bro. He's like, just surrender. And I was like, what, dude? Like, what does that mean? That's like Chinese, you know? And he was talking about, you know, taking that first step, conceding to our innermost selves that we're alcoholic, we're addict, and our lives we're powerless over our addiction, and our lives had become unmanageable.
Step one. And
so it takes what it takes for everybody to really, really work that first step in it. You know what I found, and it's different for everybody. Luckily, I had that experience in treatment where I finally came to a genuine realization that I was screwed. If I continued to drink and use, I was going to die or end up in prison, probably soon. But I had no idea what a path of recovery and sobriety looked like.
So you moved into contemplation.
That was terrifying, right? Well, not. And so I'm in this rock and a hard place. I can't keep using, but I surely can't stay sober. What do I do with me? Right? And the people in treatment that seemed like they were as bad as I was in my disease, that had a clearness in their eyes and a calm demeanor, they all talked in some hope. They all talked about a power greater than themselves that was doing for them what they couldn't do for themselves. And I mean, you're in a room with 9 other people saying this, and I'm like, well, I should probably, and they're basically saying, Tice, if you don't find a power greater than you, you are gonna die from
jails,
this.
institutions, and death.
Yeah, and so the truth of that, Jared, really set in.
Yeah,
for the first time, where I was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
you know,
man.
Like and I remember.
And I always tell people, you can hear that, but until you believe it, nothing's going to change.
For sure.
So it sounds like you started to actually have that realization, and the belief grew that, okay, based on my past experience, this is true for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, and so that night I remember just like bawling in bed, you know, that night. in that place of damned if I do, damned if I don't. And I said the first prayer I've ever said in my life, looking back, believing that there was something greater than me out there.
Bro, I just got the chills.
You know what I mean?
It's like the comeback story.
And they say in the room, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And it was slowly and quickly. Slowly in the fact that I had no comfort coming to me that night. I was just in utter pain, absorbing my nothingness and inability to overcome the disease that had been developed in a just sheer hopelessness.
Yeah, probably really scared too.
Terrified.
Because I remember being in that
terrified.
place, and it's like when you realize, like, okay, the only thing for me is basically jails, institutions, and death if I continue on the path. But I don't know anything else because I've been doing this for so long, right?
Is fear, the fear of the unknown.
Fear sets in.
How am I going to do that?
Exactly. I don't want to end up in jails, institutions, or death, but I don't know the path forward.
Right.
Yeah.
And dude, so I remember praying, like I'm finally praying for the first time because it was like a Hail Mary, right? Like there had to be something there to pray with. And I'd grown up with all this religious understanding and stuff, right? And so I remember saying to God, like, this is me coming to you for real, and you got to be real. Like, you got to be there or I'm screwed. And if you are there, I need to be able to see things completely different because the way I've been seeing things has utterly and completely failed me and led me where I'm at in life. So if you can't do for me what am I
going to do?
I said, I remember saying, like, you say knocking, you'll open. Well, I'm freaking knocking. I remember saying that. I remember like sobbing, I'm knocking. And it was like, if it didn't work, I was never going to pray again.
What were you expecting?
I don't know.
Okay.
All I know was what didn't work. And that was Tyson running Tyson's life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes quickly I woke up and dude, and it was the treatment, the providers didn't believe. They thought I was putting on some show.
Yeah.
Like they're like, dude, no one changes that quick.
Perspective
it was more than a 180. It was like, well, my heart completely opened.
Yeah.
And so like before it was like anything anyone would say, I had a justification or rationalization, right? I was digging my heels in. Now I had become open and I felt God communicating to me through my brothers and sisters in treatment and the counselors and the freaking birds in the tree, like everything, dude. I just was like this spiritual download was taking place. And that happened for days and days and days, weeks and weeks and weeks. And, rocketed me into just a dimension of learning, of taking suggestions, and exponential growth.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
That I always find very fascinating. So one of the questions that I asked you earlier is, what were you expecting when you prayed? That's one that's Counselor Jared coming out, right? Talking with a client. Because I don't think a lot of people know what to expect. And typically what my experience has been and what I hear from a lot of people is what you said. My perspective shifted. I had a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Right? For you, was that religious or spiritual?
Oh, spiritual.
Okay.
I mean,
because I grew up LDS as well, right? I grew up in a very Christian home, LDS, went to church every Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand the difference between religion and spirituality until recovery.
Yeah. Spirituality is foundational. It's got to come first. Religion can supplement.
I like that.
Is the way I look
like
at
that.
it.
Totally.
It adds to. But if you don't have a genuine relationship with a power greater than yourself,
then
you're just checking boxes. You're doing it to keep up with the Joneses. You're doing it for
100%.
appearances. You're doing it because there's some good where but you're not really into it, right? Screw that. If I'm gonna live, I'm not gonna live like that. I want to live connected in authenticity, and not to say. So the spirituality is so foundational and so critical. And so I finally was learning that, absorbing that. existing in that place, taking the second step, coming to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, and then having these overwhelming feelings, like, yep, this is definitely the right way. I'm going to make a decision to turn my will, my life over to this. It's way better than what I had been doing on my own. And then I'm at step 4, which is make an inventory.
Yeah.
You know, and highlight everything of what we don't want to be. You know, and the first time I went through it, I was like, oh, I'm not going to bring this up. I'm not going to bring that up. I'll not do that part of it. I've changed so much that I'm probably good now. You know, like, oh, you need to do outpatient and aftercare. And I'm like, I don't think you know if you know who I am. I'm good.
I'm a pretty big deal.
I've had a massive spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And I think I know more than, you know, I think. And so that ego, that subtle ego sets in and you know, went around the same friends, like, oh, see, I'm not drinking and using, doing the same stuff. Oh, I'm not using. Soon, a year and a half later, picked back up. I relapsed a little after 18 months. And then it took just a few more months where I went to the ranch.
Okay.
And was able to pick up everything that I had learned in treatment before, but then also pick up pieces and identify what I don't want in my life and what contributed to the relapse and what I didn't do before and what I need to do now. And I took my recovery very, very seriously and I have since. And so that was in September 2008.
I love that. And, you know, treatment doesn't always work the first time. A lot of people have come on and shared that, you know, and so I think that's amazing. With the last little bit of time we have here, transition us to, so that was like active addiction treatment days. What does life look like now?
Yeah. I mean, life today is hard to put in words. It's enormously wonderful, like for real. I'm extremely blessed. I have a host of friends, and I'm part of a purpose so much bigger than myself. And
you literally ended up buying the treatment center that you ultimately got clean and stayed clean in.
Yeah. Well, my dad bought it. My dad had built a big company, sold it, bought the ranch, and then I bought 51% of it.
Got you.
From my dad.
Yeah.
But he backed it all. But once I earned, you know,
but it's just
the
cool
amount we exchanged, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
cool
nuts. I
you were
pinch
able to-
myself all the time, like how am I in this position? The most beautiful part about my life today is coaching my kids in baseball. You know, being there for my little girl at her dance recitals. You know, singing. You know, cuddling with her at night. You know, singing to my little boy at night, and swimming with them. You know, being a dad. We're going to Disneyland tomorrow.
I love it.
Like my life is a freaking dream. You know,
bro.
It's nuts.
Thank you for coming on and sharing some experience, strength, and hope. Love you, brother. Thanks again.
Love you, buddy. Thanks, man.
All right, we'll pick this back up. Episode 165 is a wrap.
Thank you for joining us today on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Help us spread our message of hope. Like, comment, and share.
If you have any topics or ideas for future shows, please share that on our Facebook page.
That Facebook page is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. If you or a loved one needs help, please reach out to us. Again, thank you for listening.
Brought to you by Diamond Detox, Wasatch Crest, Team Recovery, Rise Up Subs, and the Hilton Garden Inn. This has been a production from a podcast studio.